Hello everyone, it's Nina and welcome back to my channel. Today's video, we are going to be doing a classic for BookTube, probably one of the only tags that I see like every creator do year after year, which is the mid-year freakout tag. Since we're already in July when I'm filming this, I thought it would be probably the best time to do this tag since we are officially halfway through the year. I wanted to start off by giving some like general stats of my reading year so far before we get into the questions for the tag. And also do kind of like a vibe check for how this year has been. I will also have the questions in the description below if you want to do this tag yourself. And anyways, let's get right on into it. Starting off with all of like my general stats for the year, I have read 25 books as of this filming. And I'm pretty sure by this point in July, I had read around like 40-ish books. Here's like a full breakdown of all of my ratings so far. I have had 5 books that are 5 stars. And none of the books this year have been below 3 stars, which is so good for me. Overall, this has been a very slow reading year. I think I mentioned this like 5 times before on other videos on my channel, but I was very, very busy with work at the beginning of the year from like February through like the middle of May. Plus, I had some personal stuff happen that I mentioned in a past reset vlog that I will link here if you want to like hear about that. So I just like wasn't really in the mood or like had a lot of like free mental space to spend a lot of time reading, basically from February until May. However, this year really has fulfilled my goal of having quality over quantity because my ratings for this year have been so good so far. My average rating in 2024 was 3.7, and in 2025, so far my average rating has been a 4.1, which is a great improvement and showing that I have been really enjoying a lot of the books that I've been reading. And like I said before, there's been no books that have been under 3 stars. So while there have been a couple books that I was kind of on the fence of and didn't really enjoy in the moment, there's been no like absolute disasters or books that I really, really hated and decided to DNF. I just feel like overall the books I've been choosing so far this year have been ones I've been really excited to read and really, really getting immersed in and enjoying, which I'm very, very pleased with. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the actual questions for the tag. The first question, starting off with a bang, is what is the best book you've read so far in 2025? And for this question, I decided to choose the 2 books I've read that I gave 5 stars and The Tarot Sequence by Katie Edwards. So that is The Last Sun, as well as the 3rd book in the series, The Hourglass Throne. These are iconic, amazing, so funny, and also emotionally traumatizing at the same time. And just overall so well written. This is an indie adult urban fantasy romance series that kind of has like a murder mystery plot line threaded throughout. I really enjoyed all 3 books in the series that are out so far that I read, but the first one is definitely my favorite. The next question is what is the best sequel you've read so far in 2025? I honestly could put The Hourglass Throne for this question, but to talk about a different sequel that I really, really loved this year, I decided to choose Dark Air by C.S. Pacat. This is a YA historical fantasy series, and this book is the sequel to Dark Rise, which I also read this year. I really liked Dark Rise and gave it a 4.5, but this one kind of like did everything I wanted Dark Rise to do, but like turned it up to 11. I just thought it was so amazing. And the like kind of cliffhanger this book leaves off on, I'm so excited when we finally have like a name and a release date for the 3rd book in the series, because I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Okay, the next question is what is a new release you have not yet read but really want to? For me, this book is a little out of left field because it's very different from my usual like genres that I stick to, but it's Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I kind of have like a mixed track record with reading Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. I wasn't the hugest fan of Daisy Jones and the Six when I read it, but I really, really love Carrie Soto. So I am excited to read more of her like newer interconnected universe of famous people books that she's come out with, which I'm pretty sure this book is part of that universe and is about a female astronaut in the 80s. Overall, it just sounds really, really interesting, and I'm just very excited to eventually check it out. The next question is what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? I have 2, and they're both queer historical romances, kind of no surprise there. The first one is To Sketch a Scandal by Jess Everly. I have this book on pre-order, and it's coming out in July. I don't think it will be out by the time I upload this video, but probably very soon after. This is the 4th book in her Lucky Lovers of London series. All of the other books in the series I've really, really enjoyed. So far, none of them have been a 5 star, but I really, really do like Jess Everly's writing style. And I'm super excited to check this one out because it does follow 2 characters we've met before. One I was not anticipating we would ever see again, but the other one is a character that's appeared in all 3 of the other books. My second most anticipated release is Ladylike by Mackenzie Lee. I actually have an arc of this one that I'm so freaking excited to get to reading. This is an adult lesbian historical romance by the author of The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, which is one of my favorite books of all time. And I'm pretty sure this is also Mackenzie Lee's like debut adult novel. It's been a long time since I've read the Montague Siblings series, so I'm really excited to see what her writing style is like in this like adult format. And it's of course like my favorite niche genre of queer historical romance, so I'm really excited to see what this is like. Okay, the next question is, what is the biggest disappointment so far this year? And I have 2 books for this. The first one is You Didn't Hear This From Me by Kelsey McKinney. While I do really like Kelsey McKinney as like a person and a podcast host, I wasn't like the biggest fan of this book. I gave it a 3.5. I did think some chapters were much stronger than others, which maybe was part of the reason why I gave it a lower rating. Just some chapters weren't as interesting to me. Although I do feel like overall in reading this book, I kind of did learn that I just don't really find gossip as a really interesting nonfiction topic. I like the way that it's woven into the podcast Normal Gossip that Kelsey used to be the host of. But just as a topic for a nonfiction book, I don't know if I really vibed with it very well. The other book that was a disappointment for me was The Blood Phoenix by Amber Chen. To be honest, my expectations for this book were not super high, because I definitely could see some of like the flaws in the writing style and plot stuff going on in the first book in the series, but I still at the same time really enjoyed Of Jade and Dragons, specifically for like the romance aspect of that book, and also because I really liked the main character a lot. But this one I just feel like was a letdown in a lot of the aspects that I really had hoped for, and also just kind of took the plot in some strange directions. So definitely the biggest disappointment I've had so far this year. Next question is, what is the biggest surprise? I'm taking this to be a positive surprise. And I have 2 books for this. Both of them also are nonfiction, which is a little interesting. The first one of those is The Wager by David Gran. This is a nonfiction book about a British man-of-war shipwreck in the 1740s. And it was so cool and interesting. I really liked the overall like pacing of the story and the way it was told. I feel like if you're a big fan of like true crime podcasts, this kind of has like the same flavor as those. Overall, really good. I'm definitely going to read more of David Gran's backlist in the future. The other book that I read that was a huge surprise was The Disaster Artist by Greg Sestero and Tom Bissell. This just blew me away in like how funny and emotional it was, and like how overall it was so well written. It was also just like a genuinely fascinating story from like every angle. This is a like nonfiction / like memoir about Greg Sestero, who is an actor that's probably best known for being Mark in the movie The Room. And it's about his time in making The Room, kind of the full trajectory of his friendship with the director, writer, actor Tommy Wiseau. I'm not even that much of a like The Room connoisseur. I've only actually seen it in its entirety this year. But obviously, like, from being online, I've known all of the like iconic quotes about it since like the early 2000s when it started like gaining cult status. But so even though I'm not like a big Room connoisseur, I feel like I was so genuinely engrossed in this. It was so good that we did end up watching the movie adaptation as well. But honestly, I do think that I like the book more than the movie adaptation. Okay, let's move on to the next question, which is your new favorite author. For this, I have 2 answers as well. The first one is Katie Edwards. I feel like the writing style of the tarot sequence is one of the main things about it that I really enjoy, and one of the things that like push it over the edge into being like one of my favorite books of the year. The other author that I've really been enjoying lately is Ali Theron, who is the author of the Magic in Manhattan series. I read the 2nd and 3rd book in the series in 2025. I'm pretty sure this is her debut series, and I feel like you can really see how she's grown as an author, and each book has gotten like better and better. I'm super excited to like kind of read more of her backlist and get caught up in all of the series that she has out. She has a spin-off series to the Magic in Manhattan series, as well as a like paranormal urban fantasy series that I think is going to have the 3rd and final book come out next year. So I'm hoping I can like finish up as much of her backlist and kind of like get caught up in all her series in the next year or so, because I feel like I really have enjoyed her writing style. I'm gonna skip the next question because for newest fictional crush, I don't really have one. I feel like I very rarely have crushes on characters in books. But the following question, new favorite character, I definitely have some to talk about here. Once again, I have to go back to my favorite book this year and talk about Rune and Brand. Truly, I like can't even with them. Rune is like my bread and butter character archetype. I love a traumatized man who like will hide it with humor. And then Brand is like such a good complimentary character with this like kind of dry humor, but also his role as like a no-nonsense bodyguard. Their relationship dynamic also has like some of my favorite elements because I love a relationship where it's like everything at once. They're childhood best friends, they're like lord and trusted servant, they're platonic like brother from another mother, but also kind of in love with each other romantically. And they also have like multiple like magical bonds that kind of like add to how complicated their dynamic is. Overall, just love these two so much. The next question is, what is a book that made you cry? I don't actually think I've cried at a book so far this year, but I have been like emotionally devastated with both the books in the Tarot Sequence series, as well as both Dark Rise and Dark Air, and also Sunrise on the Reaping. The beginning of that book was very emotionally traumatizing, and I think most recently the book that's emotionally traumatized me has been Wonderstruck by Ally Theron. On the opposite side of the spectrum, what is a book that made you happy? Honestly, you can kind of add in all of the books I've praised so far in this video, but I also wanted to mention It Takes Two to Tumble. I feel like I could put like pretty much any Cat Sebastian book, if I read one this year, and add it to this question. But so far I've only read one book by her this year. This book is like just a fun time. It's truly very low stakes. The perfect like comfort historical romance that really just like lifts up my spirits and gets me excited to read again. I feel like in saying stuff like fluff or popcorn books, they tend to get like a pretty bad rap online. But like, God forbid you want to have a little fun. And I feel like I see this type of book as like a good breather in between the more like heavier or like more brain power books that I'm reading. And I feel like they also always help me get out of a slump because they're just so quick and enticing. Next question is, what is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year? I have not actually bought a lot of fancy books. If you've watched some of my other videos, you might know that I'm actually on kind of a book low buy for 2025, where I have like an overall cap of how much money I'm allowed to spend on books. And the only special edition I pre-ordered that since came in was my copy of The Blood Phoenix. This is the Illumicrate special edition, and it is incredibly beautiful. Even if I'm not a huge fan of the contents of the book, I still do really like how they like did the design for everything. I think overall it's really, really beautiful. Like, this hard case design is so amazing. And the sprayed edge with the phoenix is so cool. I feel like under normal circumstances, I might have tried to like resell this book. However, because I do like the first book in the series, I think they're going to look really nice together on my shelves, that I kind of don't want to split them up. I think I'll probably hold on to this for a little while. And maybe in like a year or two, if I'm not really feeling very emotionally attached to the series, then maybe I'll sell both of them. But for right now, I'm really happy that I have this in my collection, even if it is probably more than I should have paid for a book that I only gave 3 stars. Okay, next question is, what are some books that you need to read before the end of the year? Pretty much every book in my 25 books to read in 2025 list. I feel like I've made good progress. I think I'm at like 10 out of the 25. Ideally, by this point in the year, I would be through like 12 and a half books by the midway point. But I'm not really super worried about finishing all of them, especially because there are some books in that list that are on my like upcoming TBRs as well. I'll mention a couple books from that list. The first one is The Duke's Sister and I by Emma Claire Sunday. I really want to read that book soon. I also really want to read the last book in the Emily Wilde series. I usually am pretty good about reading the Emily Wilde books like right after their release, but this one kind of just like got a little away from me because I'm pretty sure it was released back in February and I still haven't had a chance to go get it. So definitely another book I'd like to read before the end of the year. And yeah, just like overall making more progress on my 25 books to read in 2025 list. Okay, the last question for the tag is, who are your favorite book community members? So I'm going to talk about a couple different booktubers that I've been really enjoying watching lately. The first one is Wicked Reading. I've been subscribed to her channel for a little while. I really, really like her videos, and I think she has a really great vibe. Another person that I found recently this year is What Ray Reads. I really, really love her vlogs. She just seems like very put together and like very realistic at the same time in everything that she does. I also really enjoy her sit-down videos. I feel like she's very articulate, and I feel like I agree with a lot of her takes and analysis. Another booktuber that I'm really been enjoying is Stories for Coffee. I find her channel like aesthetic and vibe like very inspiring, and also like not to be kind of parasocial, but I feel like we have a lot of similar interests, and I feel like I agree with a lot of her takes, and I like her style of humor. And then the last person I'll mention is someone I've only been watching for the last like month or two, and that's Jared Henderson. He does more so like video essays that often have like a book element, but he's not specifically a booktuber. But I do think he's like very articulate, very smart. He talks about some pretty complex topics while still being very approachable. And I feel like all of his video topics and like the analysis that he does is stuff that really should be discussed more in the book community. Those were all of the questions for the tag, so we've now reached the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, consider liking, commenting, or subscribing if you aren't already. Consider following me on the story graph, which is linked in my description, if you want to see my reading updates in real time. I'd love to hear any of your answers to the questions in the comments down below. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!